All right, good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who are here in the masterclass, and for those who will see it on YouTube at a later time, I want to welcome everybody. Today's masterclass number 8. Today will be hosted by our dear professor, John Alexander Serna, and myself, John Jairo Calderon. Today's the 6th of October, 2023. Hello, Alex. How are you?
Very good. Thank you very much, John. This is a Friday, a good Friday afternoon. We have is sunny. It's a sunny afternoon, and we are going to
Yeah.
enjoy this masterclass that
All
is
right.
full of
That's great.
surprises for everybody.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we will talk about. And for those of you who are listening in at a later date, take note of all the things that we're going to talk about because it is very important, not only for us as tutors, but also for you who are listening to this masterclass number 8. So let's begin with our customary hello to everybody. And we're glad that you're watching, or if you're here, welcome, and we hope you enjoy it. So, what do we have for today? Okay, we have a few things for today. So, welcome to masterclass number 8, and today is about improving writing skills. And what we have for you guys today are strategies and techniques that we will talk about. Alex, what do you think of writing? You enjoy writing?
Yeah, man, I think it's one of the most important. I would say that after speaking, we have writing that they are part of the productive skills, and we have the opportunity to receive a message and then put it into the paper and put it into the screen. So some
Okay.
lines that we can say something about it. It will be very nice.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, it is. It's very writing is very important, and we will talk about why it is important throughout the presentation here in Masterclass number 8. Alex, ¿usted escribe más en inglés o en español o en francés?
I'd say that I just write more in English rather than in Spanish or French.
Okay. And I mean I know a few things in French, but is writing in French difficult or easy?
I would say it's even more demanding because of the accents. I have different kind of
Uh,
accents because in English we have stress, right? Uh,
yeah, we have stress,
but
syllable stress.
in exactly, but we have in French the stress and also the kind of accents, particular accents. So what we call in Spanish comas and acentos agudos, circunflejos. So that's what we just make different the writing in French compared to English and Spanish.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I remember when I was at the university as a student, I had a lot of problems with writing in French, but it's I think it's a lot easier to do it in English because
Yeah.
English is, you follow a structure. In Spanish and in French, you can move the structure around, right?
Exactly, and I would say that you can simplify more in English, but in French you
Okay.
can extend a little bit more. I would say that there is a vast lexicon in French and English and Spanish.
All right, yeah, that's true. That is very true. Okay, so what do we have for today? For today, we have these topics. Number one is the importance of writing. We need to know why writing is important, and I think writing is important for everybody, not only at the let's say at the primary level, also secondary, very important at the university level, and for us adults after we go through a educational process in a university. But yeah, the importance of writing, I think, is at any age. Number two, we have read to improve your writing skills. I believe that the more you read, the more you improve your writing skills. So reading is part of writing. Reading helps you to master your writing skills. So it's very important.
And to
Number
increase
three,
lexicon, right, my John, to
yeah,
increase lexicon. So
lexical, exactly.
yes, if people say if you want to speak, you need to listen. I need to listen very, very
Yes.
good and increase more your confidence to be receiving and producing. But in writing, you have to read. That's the requirement. You need to read a lot so you can produce more into the paper.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true, Alex. I do you read a lot, Alex? You have the opportunity to read a lot?
Yeah, I have been reading some breaking news lately
Okay.
and also books that now I'm teaching in first semester. So I have a series of books that I just assigned to my students in first semester.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I think that the more you read, the better you will write in the future. So, or
Exactly.
throughout the process. All right. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's important, Alex. Number three is generating ideas. Usually, before we write, we have what we call the writer's block, where we don't know what to do, we don't know what to think about, to write about. So we'll provide, Alex and I will provide some strategies or techniques for generating ideas. Okay, and then we've got number four, small mistakes to avoid. Even if you're not a professional writer, you don't have to be. There are moments in which we need to think about mistakes and errors, and we'll talk about that as well. Point number five is keeping a writing journal. I think in my lifetime, I have kept some writing journals about things that I have done at the university level and maybe at the master's level. And I think keeping a journal is very important. You ever kept a journal, Alex, a writing journal?
Yeah, I remember when I was a student in first semester, I remember Professor Marta Gonzalez. She just
Ah,
asked our group to keep track of everything that we have in mind, just put it into the paper. And that was an unforgettable experience because I didn't have the habit of
ah,
having a journal. Even though in Spanish, I didn't have the kind of habit, sorry. And,
yeah.
and the idea of making this, I felt more confident with my ideas, with chronological order, things that already happened in my life. So that from that moment on, I started using from time to time journals.
Okay, good. And did you keep those? Do you still have them at
I
home
still
or?
have them, and I have something to tell you.
Yeah,
You know that we have those very old tape recorders, the big
yeah,
ones, remember?
yeah. I
And
remember.
I just record my voice, and I still have the cassette. I still
Wow.
have the cassette with my voice. And I said, "It's me," and I just compare that kind of intonation, that kind of oral production, and nowadays you feel that there is a dramatic changes of the kind of production in the speaking.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, wow, you kept those. I used to have some cassettes also of me speaking, but I think I lost them. But I think that's important. That's important to keep
The
and
evolution that
yeah,
we have evolution in life.
exactly. That is good. All right, thank you for sharing that, Alex. That's important. And then finally, we have point number six, which is the summary of the key points, which are from one to five. And we will talk about those at the end. Okay, so as it is customary, before we begin, we have what I always call it's riddle time once again. Are you good at riddles, Alex?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Okay.
I try. I try.
Yeah, me too. I try too, and I think riddles are also good to improve writing because it makes you think about what you read. You have to read between the lines and try to guess what is the intention of the riddle and try to guess, a proper answer. Sometimes difficult, but it's good. It's good for reading and also for writing. So we have the first riddle, yes, and let's remember that there will be people watching this later on YouTube, so we'll give them some time. So here's a riddle for all of you who are watching, and also for you, Alex, if you want to read it and see if you can come up with an answer.
Okay, let's face it. Eh?
Okay, riddle number one says, what has to be broken before you can use it again? What has to be broken before you can use it again? So the people who are watching this asynchronically, think about it before I put up the answer. Think of what you need to break before you can use it again. Something that you gotta break before you can use it. Do you have an idea, Alex?
No, man, you just crucify me. I have no idea.
Okay. All right. So for those people who are watching this at a later time, what has to be broken before you can use it again? Well, the answer is an egg.
All right, yes.
Yeah. So you got to break it to use it. Now, if the riddle said to eat it, then I think it'd be easier to guess. But in this case, is so you can use it again. All right, good. All right, that's a pretty difficult one. Let's see how the other ones are. Now, Alex, you know what I did is I made these a little more difficult because in the previous master classes, when I had this part at the beginning about the riddles, all the students were guessing very easily. So I thought maybe the students are reading a lot. So when students read a lot, they come across these riddles and they are able to guess them a lot. Okay, here we go. So the second riddle, the riddle says, you see a boat. You see a boat with many people on board. So, whoops, yeah, many people are on board, but there isn't a single person on the boat. How is that possible? How is that possible? So you see a boat with many people on board, but there isn't a single person on the boat. How is that possible? Think about that. Read it carefully. The answer is actually in the riddle, inside the question. You think you have an answer for that one, Alex?
I'm thinking in ghost.
Yeah.
You see
Okay.
nobody because maybe there is a kind of
Maybe there's
ghost
maybe there are
in it.
ghosts
Yeah,
on the boat, right?
yeah.
Okay. So for those of you who are watching this, you got to read it, and it says there isn't a single person on board. According to that line, that's where the answer is. But let's put the answer, and then you will be surprised what the answer is. How is that possible? Because all the people on the boat are married. So the key word here is single, but there isn't a single person on the boat. How is that possible? Well, because all the people on the boat are married. So
Yeah.
yeah, so the key word there is single. Single.
When you're single, life it just changes dramatically.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Life is different, right?
Yeah, totally different. I would say 360 degrees, 60 degrees is the kind of cycle that we just suffer.
Oh yeah, yeah. And is there possibility that when you're married, you go back not to being single, but the way the single life was? You think that's possible?
I'd say that that change is possible, but it has to be suffer some kind of changes,
Yeah.
and nobody will hear you screaming. Yeah,
Yeah. That's why I laugh because the
yeah,
key word is suffer, some kind of
suffer,
changes.
screaming. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, good. All right, let's go to the next one. So the next one says, what does where, not what, where does today come before yesterday? Where does today come before yesterday? Where does today come before yesterday? This one's tricky because you have to pay attention to some words in the question. And if you analyze it, I don't know how easy it would be to get the answer, but if you analyze it, the same thing, just by analyzing two key words in the question, you might be able to guess. So, where does today come before yesterday? You have an idea, Alex?
Oh man, that's
That one's difficult, right?
yeah, yeah, difficult. That kind of difficult riddle.
Yeah. And I made them difficult because, as I said last week, the
Yeah,
people who were in it, they were guessing. They guessed of
very easy.
five, yeah, they guessed four. So I don't know how they would do with this one today. So here's the answer. Where does
Ah,
today come
sure.
before yesterday in the dictionary? Because
Yes.
T and Y, right?
Yeah, man.
Okay. All right, that one, yeah, that one's a little more difficult than the previous one. All right, let's go with another one. One more, but it's not really one more. There's still more. Alex, what has words but never speaks?
What has words but never speaks?
Any idea what may have words but never speaks?
It's kind of mute.
Yeah? Okay. Here's the
No, I
answer.
get mute.
Yeah.
I get mute.
All right. Here's the answer. A
A
book.
book.
Yeah.
Uh,
A book has words but never speaks.
yeah.
You know, you it depends on how you can take that because, you know, when you read books, they actually speak to you.
Yeah, they speak mentally.
Yeah,
Mentally,
they
they are
speak to
just
you mentally.
produce a lot of lexicon.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly correct. All right, here's the last one for sure. This is, oh no, that was the last one. Yeah, that was the last riddle. I thought there was one more, but no, that was the last riddle. Okay, so let's dive into this. And in the first part, we have the importance of writing. Alex, what is important? You know, if you were have to let's say answer this question, why is writing important for you, particularly for you?
I'd say no matter the language, I have to compile my ideas on the screen in written production because sometimes documents are very important for our academic and our professional life. So we need to all through our lives we need to fill in documents, and when we
Yeah.
just start filling documents, we need to write them down and put all that kind of information into the paper or the screen. So that's really important that we can produce. We say that we produce utterances in speaking, but we have to produce here is words, paragraphs, and essays, and that's why we just rely the importance that we have to carry out many ideas and convey meaning through writing.
Okay, I agree with you 100%. For me, I feel the same thing. That is the importance on writing. But moreover, I think that in my case, for writing, um, when you think about life, when you think about life in general, not only as a student, there comes moments in which you have to write things. For example, I know one thing that we don't agree on a lot, Alex, is when we have to write the list for shopping for groceries, right?
Oh, that's a punishment.
That's
That's
a
a punishment,
punishment.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that one day in the month when I have to suffer, that's
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah, that's the day when you have to go shopping. So, for example, things like that require you to write. Let's say if you travel, when you travel, sometimes you have to write things. You know, when you're on the airplane and you're gonna land at another country, they give you a format that you have to fill out, and they're gonna ask you where are you coming from. They're gonna ask you what is it you're going to do in that country. Are you there for pleasure or for business? Once you're in the country, you may have to fill out forms at a hotel. You may have to fill out forms, I don't know, maybe with a guide, a tour guide. So, all of these things. So, other than what you said, apart from that, you also, in life, in general terms, you need to write a lot. So, when you travel, Alex, when you have traveled, you find yourself writing some things?
I feel like kind of fish in the ocean because that's something they say I'm not stuck. I don't feel that I cannot do it. I feel just I go ahead and I fill out all the legal formats that are
Yeah.
requested at that moment. And that's why I tell my family that whenever they are going to travel abroad and they have to fill out this sort of documents, it's important that they keep good skills in writing.
Yeah, that is true. And remember we had said before that reading is important to writing because exactly what you said, we have to read these formats. Now, if you travel within Latin America, you'll probably read it in Spanish, but if you travel outside of the Americas or you go north, or even more north to Canada, those formats will probably be in English. So it's good to have your reading and writing skills on point. So
Yeah, that's very good.
yeah, that's true. So in part one, the importance of writing. Why is writing important? Well, it is a communication tool. And as you said before, Alex, writing is a production ability. We have speaking and we have writing, and they both constitute communication. So, um, as something that is very important and key to everybody in life, we have writing. It is a communication tool. I would say we speak more than we write, but I think there are instances, especially in our academic lives, whether you are in primary, high school, or university level, or post university, you have to do a lot of writing. Do you agree with that, Alex?
Yeah, 100%, John, because as we are educators, we have to communicate and we have to use this tool every single day. And we have to inspire people to have the evidence that we can show them, we can guide them what are the tools, the steps to have a good writing.
That is true. That is very true. Okay, the second one. Why is writing important? Because it provides academic success. Alex, when you were at the university and in the master's degree, did you find or did you notice that the more you wrote, you improved in everything else?
I noticed that in first semester in the master degree program, I just started just writing down a paragraph or an essay. The first time I have a hard time, but after
Yeah.
writing a couple of them, I feel that okay. Now I feel that it's easier because we have the habit to write down essays or kind of writing very frequently. So that's
Okay.
why I feel that you want to become an efficient writer, you have to go ahead and just let out your fears. When you say overcome your public speaking fear, let out your writing skills. And I have
That
to
is true.
just stop then and say, I made mistakes. Mistakes are necessary with
Oh, yes,
punctuation, with
yes.
the lexicon, with the linking words. So there are a bunch of things that you need to keep in mind, but it's step by step. It's a gradual process
Okay.
that you have to carry out, but it's not only one time. It just comes in a sequence. So after
Yeah.
one stage, after the other one, you just get it. Get it.
Okay. That is true. Yeah, that is very true. What about in high school, Alex? Did you do a lot of writing in English or not that much?
I would say that I was just trying to fill out. I remember that English and French at school
Yeah.
was kind of hard because it was just to fill in the blanks.
Oh, okay.
That's what I
Yeah.
remember. Yes,
Yeah.
short spaces for to fill in information.
Yeah, that is true. So there wasn't that much composition writing, right? No
No,
composition writing.
no,
Okay.
man.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, the third one. Why is writing important? Well, it helps with professional development. And as we were speaking before, uh, Alex and I and some other colleagues, we had the opportunity to study our master's degree where we wrote, I think in every module, we had to write a lot of essays. I remember that. And I do believe that that helped us with professional development. Do you agree with that, Alex?
Yeah, totally. We just agreed that that's part of the professional development, and that's what we just try to improve. Every single stage in our lives is one experience that we accumulate.
Yeah, that is true. That is, yeah, the more experience you accumulate, the better you become in your professional area. Whether it's, for example, a lot of secretaries, people, women who are secretaries, even men, they need to write a lot. So the more they write, the more they improve their skills in writing for their field of jobs. So another one is of the importance of writing is to establish goals for writing. I've always had a lot of difficulties establishing goals, especially when I was writing lesson plans and things like that, because I would write the goal and I would continue to write, but my mind would go in a different direction. And then when I proofread my writing, I compared it with my goals and I would see that they were two different things. So I had to improve writing goals. My goals were not clear, or if they were clear, the development of my writing was going in a different direction from what my goals were actually. So, how do you feel about writing goals or, yeah, goals? Is that something that comes natural to you, Alex?
We have once we have to set up goals. I say that is something that I just push myself because
Okay.
I know that, for example, in a course that we just start a couple of weeks, I say that I have to set a goal. I have to accomplish certain stages with that course, and then I'm going to add that course to another goal. So I am going to complement them, and it means that they are complementary because by the time that we just move forward one step, the other one is going to be linked to the
Yeah.
previous one.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Now, another thing about writing goals is, um, when you ask yourself, how much do I want to improve? Should I establish a goal for 1 month, for 2 months, for a year? And you say,
Yeah.
within 1 month or 2 months, where am I going to improve my writing? Am I going to improve in fluency, fluency of writing? Am I going to improve with not making mistakes? Am I going to improve my lexicon? Am I going to amplify my vocabulary use? So that's another way of thinking about it. And that's what we have here. So goals should be very specific. When you write and you set a goal to improve your writing, make sure it's very specific. So if I, for example, in my case, I had problems with, let's say, the opening paragraph of an essay. So I would say, all right, I have to improve my introductory paragraph. How long should I study for this? How long should I read, and how long should I write for me to improve, this goal? So I remember I did that, and I said to myself, I'm going to give myself 2 months. And if in 2 months I have not improved writing my introductory paragraph, then I have to rethink what my goal will be. And I have to rethink what kind of skills, what kind of techniques or strategies I need to use. So, everybody, make sure when you establish goals for writing, make sure your goals are very, very specific. Okay. And then goals should be achievable. Yeah, like in my case, if I did not achieve that process of improving my introductory paragraph, then I am not making something that is achievable. Maybe I am heading in the wrong direction. So you have to be sure that when you establish your goals, you need to be able to reach those goals. Make sure they are achievable. Don't, in my case, if I were to say, I have to improve writing an introductory paragraph, but I'm going to do it in 2 days. I think that would not be achievable because I would need to read more and I would need to write a lot more as well. And finally, the third one of here, well, it's not finally because there are more things we need to think about, but in establishing goals for writing, goals should be smart. Goals should be intelligible. Goals should be something that if I read it, I comprehend it, and I know what to do with it. And if somebody else reads my goals and or is determining if they can use mine to improve, make sure they handle other people as well. What do you think about these three for goals, Alex?
I think they're really important because it should be specific. And something that you can reach what you are pretending to achieve. So it should be achievable, and they have to be, as you said, smart. It could be a specific, measurable, and are achievable. So that's part of the things that we can be a timely, realistic, attainable, measurable, and specific. That's what we just call smart, and that's really important to keep goals in mind.
Okay, that is true. That is very true. Okay, good. So, well, let's go back just a little bit and remember that the first one was the importance of writing. It is a communication tool. It provides academic success and it helps with professional development. And in the importance of writing, we need to consider goals. And these three are also very important. Goals should be specific, goals should be achievable. And as Alex was mentioning before in this part, all goals should be smart. They should be intelligible for everybody. All right, good. So, also in this one, the importance of writing, we have what Alex, you were talking about before, and that is to expand your vocabulary. Here are some things that all writers at every level should keep in mind. We can use flashcards, we can use word games, and we can use relevant exercises. Alex, are there any of these three that you have taken into consideration to improve your writing?
Most of the time when I am teaching, I tend to use flashcards and relevant exercises.
Okay.
Very not random, but some word games. But they're really important because they just stretch vocabulary and increase lexicon. So they are, I would say, very, very reliable and very important for not only for teaching but also for learning.
Okay, that is true, Alex. And one thing that I have found also in my classes is if I isolate vocabulary improvement or learning, I don't think that my students are able to contextualize the new vocabulary. Therefore, if I isolate it, they won't remember the words in a context. What they try to do is remember the word and the definition, but they don't contextualize it. Has that happened to you? That you
Yeah,
isolate
I feel,
vocabulary?
John, I just, sorry, I have to remember the context. When I am thinking about word, for example, I'm thinking about an island and a Bermuda Triangle, immediately it comes to my mind the experience that I live in that British country. So
Okay.
it's not only the word, but the context where the word is in.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, the context in which where the word is. And you know that sometimes you're a person that has traveled a lot, Alex. Sometimes in within a context, a word or a phrase or a group of words means something in one place and it can mean something different in a different place. Has that ever happened to you when you traveled?
Exactly, because the meaning and the word that people or the community, societies assign is totally different to the ones that are in a different place.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and that's one thing that we learn the basics. For example, at the university, we teach the basics. Even in high school, the professors, the teachers in high school, they teach the basics and they contextualize the vocabulary. The only thing is that sometimes when you leave the country, you go to another country, an English speaking country or a French speaking country. The context changes for vocabulary, completely different. So we have an idea of a vocabulary item, but it turns out that if I travel to another country and I use the vocabulary item, sometimes people are going to look at you and say, "Well, that is not correct." But anyhow, that is another way of improving that is to read. So the more we read, once again, the more we read, the more we establish vocabulary. And not only that, but we are able to establish a context for certain items of vocabulary. All right, so in the importance of vocabulary, importance of writing, we have also expand your vocabulary. Very, very important for writing. Okay, the next part of the importance of writing is the grammar basics. How are you with grammar, Alex? Does grammar give you a difficult time when you're going to write?
Um, at the beginning, it was the hard time for me, but after I just started applying grammar in a contextualized way, it was
Yeah,
easier for me, not in isolation, but also into the kind of context where I just could remember exactly how to produce accurate grammar.
yeah, that is true. I believe that to be the same thing, Alex, and I've always had uh, a difficulty when I write. And if I think about grammar and how to use grammar, if I think too much about it, I get to a point where I might be confused. But if I contextualize it within a certain topic, I don't think too much about how to use it. I contextualize it. I may make a small mistake, but other than that, it's not as difficult. So sometimes it's, contextualize instead of analyzing rules. And the more you contextualize, the more fluent you will be in writing. And I think the same goes for speaking. But in this particular case, when we write, we have to think about those grammar basics. So, for example, we have focus on tenses. Number one, focus on sentence structure. And finally, be careful with grammar mistakes or errors. So, yeah, we focus on tenses. Sometimes, I don't know if you've had this experience with students at the university, Alex, but sometimes they begin to write, and for some unknown reason, they change the tense, and then you don't know if they're still talking about something that happened before or something that is happening now. You ever have that problem with your students?
Yeah, most of the time, especially not only with the students from first semester, but also students for eighth semester, they tend still to face this kind of confusions and using
Okay.
different tenses in different sentences that they produce.
Okay, that is true. So let's say for high school students, what advice would I give to high school students when we think about focusing on tenses is the following. If you're going to relate a story about the past, make sure you stay in the past, unless you have to think about or write about something that is happening now to, I don't know, maybe to relate it to the past story. But when you write, make sure you keep in mind what is the tense that you are writing in and keep carrying that tense on and on. Don't change the tense because your story or your text that you are producing might not have coherence. So we have to be very, very careful with that. When we focus on sentence structure, well, we're actually talking about syntax. And when we talk about syntax, is how do we put sentences together? Well, as we all know, and we have taught and we have been taught by our teachers in high school, we have to consider that English, to a certain extent, is a lot easier than Spanish. Why? We only have one structure. And if we move that structure around, what's going to happen? We're going to lose the meaning, we lose some coherence, and we lose the idea of what you're trying to convey to people. So the idea here is focus on sentence structure. Always keep it simple. We have a subject, we have a verb, we have a complement, or we may even use a connector to somehow add to that idea or to change it by simply contrasting a second idea with that. But even in that case, we continue with the same structure. Do you have anything to say about sentence structure, Alex?
Yeah, when we have the sentence structure, we feel that there is a frame that we have to be attentive to
Yeah.
follow rules, and how those rules are really important to stick to them. And in English, it's not so difficult. Comparing English to French and to Spanish, the syntax is kind of basic and is it doesn't change.
It
It's a
doesn't change.
format that we can adjust and it's the same shape that we are just trying to build.
Okay. Yeah, that is true. That is very true. Um, when you write in Spanish, Alex, do you have that tendency of following the same structure in English?
Yeah, I have that kind of confusion because as we just become mm, uh, kind of writers in different languages, we try to take something from the L2 or from the L3 to the L1, and
Yeah.
we try to mix words, pronunciation, and the syntax as well.
Okay. That is true. Very true.
But I would say that is not why we just do it on purpose. It's something that is part of the common view that the people who are bilingual or multilingual are becoming into the process.
That is true. Yes, that is very true. Bilingual people, or even trilingual people, even the polyglots, sometimes create small confusions in terms of, structures and
Uh,
where to put vocabulary.
and there was a myth, John. There was a myth that I was a long time ago followed by some professors and said that is you have to distinguish in one language the intonation and vocabulary. If you
Yeah,
are just learning several languages and we just put it then into contact, so I think it's normal that we sometimes confuse the stress intonation from some of them when we are speaking.
yeah,
But the most amazing part is that you can produce and you can change. Yeah, you have the kind of switch, code switch,
yeah.
grammatically very easy changing the switch. So the code
Okay.
switching is very important to take into account that we just make it. It's as a miracle
Yeah,
because
that's true.
that's what we just make it. And as not because we want to impress somebody.
No,
We
no,
want,
that's
want to
true.
make it because it's part of our repertoire. We are
Yes.
using some words and borrowing part of the communication strategies, borrowing from one language into the other one.
Yeah, that is true. Well, in that sense, Alex, for example, if you're going to write in English, do you focus only on English, or do you think about Spanish or think about French sometimes?
I tend, for example, when we are making radio, I can change and have the code switching from
Okay.
English to French or French to English or Spanish in different occasions. So, and it's not because we just feel that we are making mistakes. It's the multilingual mind.
Yeah, that is true. It's a multilingual mind. That's exactly true. And some people have that ease of changing from one to another, where there are people that, it's difficult for them because they have to make certain adjustments, and those adjustments are about tenses, as we have number one there, and the other adjustment is about sentence structure. but um
Yes.
but in any case, the idea is to be fluent. Try to be as fluent as you can, even if when you change from one language to another, which is something not difficult, but if you don't practice it, and whenever you have to do it, that's going to be a difficult thing. Have you ever served as a translator?
Yeah, I remember when I was an event a long time ago at university, I have to be working as a translator and an interpreter. And it was a hard time because you have to think it in a matter of seconds.
Yeah,
In seconds, you have to think about giving the interpretation right away.
yeah, because it's called simultaneous translation or interpreting, right?
Simultaneous.
Yeah, that's
Right.
That's
Yes.
difficult. Okay, here's the third one, Alex. If you look at this one, it says be careful with grammar mistakes and errors. Well, as you said earlier, it's okay to make mistakes. However, it's very important to keep those mistakes in mind, especially in writing, so you don't create them again. Do you remember the difference between a mistake and an error, Alex? Do you remember that?
Yeah, something that commonly we have is a mistaken error. People confuse them.
Yeah,
We have a mistake. We just notice that we just make it the kind of mistake, and that's when we are just becoming aware because somebody tell us that we are making that mistake and we correct it. We correct
yeah,
the mistake. So it's and I don't know if you correct my this appreciation, but we have also the slips
yeah.
of the tongue,
Oh, yeah,
the slips of the tongue. We have the slips, but we are just very fast, very fast. We correct them. The mistakes we
yes,
are aware that we want to correct them, and right away, we, for example, we said, yes, this is today is Wednesday, is Wednesday. So
yeah.
we have the kind of mistake, even in spelling and even in pronunciation. But sometimes people who know that they are making a mistake, but they persist and they try to fossilize that, it turns to be an error.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the key word, fossilize. When you fossilize a mistake, it becomes an error, and it's very difficult to get rid of that error. So the same thing happens in writing. The more I write the mistake and repeat it and repeat it, it's going to be fossilized in my mind, and straight to the pencil or pen. So you have, even when you're typing, even if you're typing, it becomes an error. So yeah, that's a good appreciation there, Alex. That is true.
I
You have
remember,
to be careful.
John, sorry for
It's
interrupting you,
okay.
but I remember when it was in first semester, I was scared to death when my professor in English 1,
Yeah.
Professor Marta Gonzalez, just start the first week with dictations. It was a
Wow.
terror, terror. Dramatic. I was scared. I said, "No, I'm gonna quit this." But nowadays, I feel thanks to my dear professor Marta
Yeah.
that I have that, and also people in France, they are retaking dictations, because in
Yeah.
dictation you are having listening, and you are just your pen and the paper, and putting attention to anything that people or the professor is saying or the recording is saying, and you are just having all the opportunities to practice your lexicon, your syntax, and the way they feel that you are under pressure. Sometimes
Exactly.
a little bit under pressure isn't required, it's necessary for you.
Yeah.
Patience is one of the most important strategies to keep running a good writing.
Yeah, and that's true, Alex, because in dictations you have writing, you have listening, and you have reading because you have to proofread what you wrote. So I mean, you're
Yes.
putting into practice three skills at the same time, and then you can put the speaking skill when you talk about what you wrote according to the dictation.
And that's one important thing, to keep people away from cell phones,
Oh
because
yeah,
there's no way out. Is you, the professor, the person who is giving the dictation, you and the paper or
yeah,
the
and the
computer.
paper. That is true. Yeah,
Exactly.
I had
Exactly.
not thought about that, and I think that's a great idea, especially in class, is to help the students move away from using a cell phone. Yes, because you're not going to write the same on paper as you would type on a cell phone. So that is true. That is
Real
extremely true.
production from them. That's where you just become aware teachers and say, this is the way that Juan, Oscar, Sarah, they write down
Yeah.
with no help. The only one thing that they have is the sheet of paper and the pen, and that's it.
Okay, that is true. Yes, that is true. Okay, so for all of you who are listening in the importance of writing, we touched on grammar basics and as Alex said, Professor Alexander said before we began, he said it's important to make mistakes. We learn through mistakes, even if it's speaking, even if it's listening, even if it's reading, but especially in writing. The more mistakes I make and correct those mistakes, the better a writer I will become. So take that into consideration. Grammar basics, focus on the tenses, focus on sentence structure, and finally be careful with grammar mistakes and errors. Okay, very good. Now we move into part two. Part one was the importance of writing. Part two is what we were talking about before, which is read to improve your writing skills. Read to
Very
improve your writing
important.
skills. Yes, exactly. So when you read, analyze. What should you analyze? Well, analyze your sentence structure, which is what we spoke about in the grammar part. Analyze your vocabulary. I think there's a third one. No, it was just those two. Whoops. Here we go. So when you read, analyze the sentence structure and analyze the vocabulary. Now, when you read, don't you we should not only read for pleasure, for enjoyment. We should also read and analyze what we are reading. Take into consideration what is the sentence structure that is being used. Does the author have a specific intention, or does the author have a very general intention? You can find these intentions with analyzing the sentence structure. And one of the things to improve vocabulary, not only for reading, but also speaking and writing for the productive skills, is to analyze the vocabulary. And one thing that I have found for myself when I read, and I did that, and because in French, we're being faced with something completely new. I always had my French dictionary, so I would read, I would analyze the structure, and then I would start looking at vocabulary. And the more I analyzed vocabulary, the more I would learn vocabulary for French. Unfortunately, I have forgotten all my vocabulary in French because, I don't use French. How do you feel about those two things, Alex?
And something really important, the two things that you mentioned is that the use of dictionaries, especially monolingual,
Yeah.
help you a lot to increase and just to expand your meaning, not only the what it means, but also what it means in the L2 or the L3. Because they
Yeah.
say, Professor, today I know 400 words in Spanish from English, but that's not the idea. The idea is not to translate. The idea is to start thinking in English or thinking in French. And the only one way, the strategy is that you just go to the monolingual dictionary on the L2 or the L3, and that's the way that you can start increasing, getting synonyms and antonyms
Yeah.
in the L2 or the L3, and the whole sentence where the word is in. So it provides you definitions in French, definitions in English or in Portuguese or in Italian, and that's why you start just expanding your lexicon in a foreign language.
That is true. That is true. Those are very good key points, Alex. Those are very good key points. Um, do you remember true cognates and false cognates?
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember we have that in the bachelor degree and the master degree program.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. And well, you're good at speaking French. Do you take it, for example, from French to English to Spanish, or if you read something in Spanish, do you ever say, right, this is a true cognate because I can not only use it in Spanish, but also in French? Is that easy to do with three languages?
I would say that when you focus on it, you focus on them, you can really understand them and use them, and not only to understand them, but to put them into real practice in life. So that's
Okay.
the most important because now that we are educators and we are parents, that's part of the repertoire that we need to use to explain
Yes, yes,
things to our sons, to our family members, and to our dear students. So
yes.
that's part of the inspiring teachers methodology.
Okay, very good. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Once you're at a place like where we're at, yes, we have a lot of people to try and inspire. We know within our family nucleus that, if we have children, we do our best to help them read and comprehend and to use these strategies as well. So for everybody to read to improve your writing skills, always remember, when you read, you should analyze the sentence structure that you are reading and the vocabulary that you are reading. Why? Because when you analyze them, learn them, and understand how they work, especially the sentence structure, we can carry it over to our writing ability. And in that sense, we do improve our writing ability. Okay, so also in part two, we have this, which is called Read to Improve Your Writing Skills. And when you read, make sure you summarize. Okay. Summarize sentences, summarize paragraphs. Why is that important? Well, because we need it for comprehension, contextualization, and deep understanding of what we are reading. So, summarize, read one line, one sentence, one idea, and summarize it. What is this saying to me? Or read an entire paragraph and summarize the paragraph. In other words, paraphrase what you read. Why is that important? Because you will remember, and then when you have to write, it's a lot easier for you to write ideas down. Um,
And keywords are really
yeah,
important. They are the hook.
exactly. Exactly, the keywords. Wow, yeah, I had almost forgotten about keywords, but keywords are truly, truly very important. Alex, sometimes when you summarize, you read something and you read it fast, and then you try to remember it. Do you have to go back and read it again? Because that happens to
I
me a lot.
I have to go back and read again, but try to focus my mind only in keywords. So if
Yeah,
I just I'm paying attention to speech or a paragraph that I am reading on, I try to take notes and take notes. I try to keep my mind on those keywords that I'm going to provide me the global understanding of the reading.
exactly. Yeah, that is true. The keywords. Wow. Yeah. And in one of the previous master classes, I think it was master class number 4, I was telling my students or our students, because they're your students too, all of everybody that was attending, to keep in mind that one of the best reading strategies is to look for keywords, because sometimes we don't have the time to comprehend an entire text. But if you keep in mind, as you said, Alex, all the keywords, we will have better comprehension. We will be able to contextualize a lot better, and the understanding that we get from the keywords are very important, because we don't know. Maybe you are taking a reading comprehension test, so the keywords will help you resolve the answers according to the questions they are asking. So yeah, when you read, summarize. What else can you say about that, Alex? Anything else about that?
When I summarize, it's because I tried to figure out what were the most outstanding ideas that called my attention from that reading. Because sometimes the test provides a lot of ideas, but once I just identify the context and identify what are the key sentences or the keywords, I try to improve my understanding and my comprehension, because there is a kind of taste for the topic that I'm just trying to decipher, to decode the message.
Okay, I see. And one thing I did not put here, and I just thought about it because of what you were saying. When you read, it's important to take notes. Do you take notes when you read, Alex? When you read a lot?
Yeah, I have to, because I cannot I in the very complex reading process, you have to take care about thousand words that you are just exposed to, but you don't feel that you don't have the complete control of the meaning of all of
Yeah,
them. So that you
that's
only
true.
focus on the ones that make you the kind of understanding clear to you, and the words that place you the context.
Okay, that is true. Yes, very true. Yeah, it's impossible to remember everything. It's impossible to write
We are
everything.
not machines. We are
Yeah,
human
we're not
beings.
machines. Exactly. We're not machines. Like the number one machine now is Chat GPT.
Oh yes,
GPT
that's
writes
a different
everything.
words.
That's a different ball game right there. But that's true. Yeah. Write what you need when you take notes and what makes things clear for you, but try not to write everything, because if you try to write everything, you will waste a lot of time. Okay.
We would like to store a lot of words, so we
Yeah.
have a kind of expanding your background, expanding your lexicon. It will be really nice, but sometimes we feel saturated of too much.
Oh, yeah, that is true. Way too much. That is very true.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good. So that is part 2, and now we go to part 3. Let's not forget, part 2 is read in order to be able to do what? Read in order to be able to improve your writing. We have shown you guys some very important key elements for you to improve the writing through reading and the analysis of certain things. All right, so part 3 is generating ideas. When you have to write, let's say, for example, when you're in the master's degree, Alex, and they said, let's say, write an essay on error correction. Did your mind ever go blank? Did you ever think, wow, what am I going to write? Or did you have some ideas, and then when you went to write those ideas, they were gone? Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, many times in many opportunities, I feel that I want to focus on a particular topic, and my mind is in a blank.
Yeah, your mind is somewhere else, right?
Yeah. I'm not
Okay.
focused on that particular time of the way that I have to focus on the topic that I want to develop in writing.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Okay, so we have, for those of you listening, watching this video, at a later time. We have some important brainstorming techniques that, if you remember them, they will help you in generating ideas for writing. So, before writing, keep this in mind. There's a thing we called word association. Word association is write down any words that come to mind. So, as I had asked Alex before, um, you have to write an essay on error correction. So, you start brainstorming these ideas and you start to write, as Alex said, not everything, but key words. Once again, the key words come into play here. Write down any words that come to mind when, in word association, or maybe the topic is write about your last vacation to work on the simple past. So anything, just words, but do not write ideas. Just write the words, because the words, the isolated words in this case, will help you later with those ideas for you to write down more complex sentences or more complete ideas. So that is one, word association. Write down any words that come to mind before writing your text. The second one here is picture prompts. Write down words or short phrases related to it. In other words, to a picture prompt. So let's say, if for those of you who are in high school, if you're in school and your teacher shows you a picture, and let's say that picture is of a boat out at sea. Yes, just write down words or short phrases that are related to that picture. That will help you stimulate your mind later when you're going to write your text. Okay, so we had word association and picture prompts. And the third one on this part is question and answer. Make sure you generate a list of questions about a particular topic and then answer them. For example, the picture of the boat. You ask yourself, write down those questions. Say, what is the boat doing out at sea? What does the boat look like? Are there many people on the boat? Is the boat anchored, or is it just floating away? So, the more questions you ask, the more ideas you will have about that particular picture and the ideas you need to generate before writing. Do you do any of these three, or do you use any of those three, Alex?
The three of them.
Okay.
In reading and writing courses, I commonly use the word association. There was a technique that I used to use in pandemics that was the wordle. The
Oh, yeah.
wordle is, yeah, the wordle, because
Yeah.
it's a brainstorming of words. For example, we are going to have definitions. Once we just set up that we are going to define the word environment. So we just try to make that those students start thinking about green, start thinking about forest,
Yeah.
things or objects or words that are commonly related to the meaning that we want to convey through the word forest. Or so
Okay.
that was the word association. And the picture prompts are really important because those prompts from pictures just there are flashes that help people in their minds to create and to recreate the idea in their minds. So they have
Yes.
a kind of a short movie in their minds, so they are prompting. And the question and answers. So we have a bunch of questions that we just ask people or ask students to generate then some controversy, but at the same time to push them to get some answer for them.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Okay, that's good. Yes, that is good. So, everybody watching, make sure brainstorming techniques before you write. Apply the word association technique or a strategy, whatever you want to call it, the picture prompts, and the question and answer. But we have some more ideas here for generating ideas before writing. So, we have, for example, character profiles, we have letter writing, and we have comparison and contrast. So these are important as well. So in character profiles, make sure you create detailed descriptions of fictional characters, including their name, their age, their appearance, their personality, etc., etc. Now, character profiles are very important. Let's say your teacher let's say you're in high school in 10th or 11th grade, and your teacher shows you a character. Let's say the teacher brings, I don't know, maybe the character of Marvel Comics and shows you Batman. Yes. So create detailed descriptions and say, all right, this guy's name is Batman. Uh, he is average age, maybe he's about 37 years old. In appearance, as Bruce Wayne, he looks like this. But in appearance, as Batman, he looks like this. What's his personality? Is it different as Batman and Bruce Wayne? Yeah, they're completely different. So when you create these character profiles, you are opening up the possibility of being able to describe more about the character. And then when you develop the character, if you have to write about the character, once you have done this, writing more things about the character is a lot easier for you. In letter writing, for example, practice writing formal or informal letters to friends, family, or even fictional characters. Now, a good thing you could do if you don't want to put your phone down, write, text one of your friends, a family member, and say, "Look, I have this as homework. I have to write a story about a character, or I have to write a story about my family, whatever it may be." But write either formal or an informal text or a long message to your friend's family or to anybody or somebody that doesn't exist. That will help you generate these ideas. And finally, we have comparisons and contrasts. Compare two things. For example, cities, animals, foods. Compare Batman to, I don't know, to Superman. Compare Batman to Wonder Woman, etc., etc., and write about their similarities and differences. How do you feel about these three, Alex?
I all of them, the ones you already mentioned before, I have been using them with cartoons.
Okay.
I have the feeling that if we just introduce cartoons in the language that most of our teenagers used to have, we are getting closer to their reality. Because they
Yeah.
say, Professor, I want to describe Batman or Superman or Puka or any of those characters that they feel close to it and they enjoy. So they say, okay, you're going to describe Maluma, you're going to describe Shakira, you're going to describe celebrities,
Yeah.
and those celebrities they feel connected with them, and they
Yes.
feel my writing assignment, I feel good because it's my celebrity or is my favorite cartoon, so they just start getting a link of this is close to my reality. So
So
that's really
it's
important that this brainstorming technique that you are presenting today is really important. We need to highlight it because we
yeah.
generate ideas. And we just made that the boring task that is imposed by the professor is going to be a very important task that you do it with satisfaction.
Yeah.
And that's really important because it's a character, it's a cartoon that you are giving a description of that real or fictional character, and you're giving the age, the name, the personality, etc. So, and the letter writing, I am just feel attached because we are starting this week to start our biographies with the students. So they
Oh,
have
good.
to work out. They need to describe their and start just describing their own life through a biography book,
Wow, that's
digital or
interesting.
physical.
That's
Yes,
interesting.
and
And that's for first semester students?
first semester, and they
Wow.
have to connect the present, the past, and the future. What
Oh, wow.
they were in their childhood doing, and what they did with their families, their school time, some stories that they want to highlight in during these chapters. Also, what they are living today at the university in first semester, and what their plans are going to be for a future. So they are just
Okay.
having this kind of writing through a biography, and the comparison and contrast. They are starting to compare what they are receiving at school and at the university. They are just now
Okay.
feeling that they have freedom, but at the same time, there are more tasks to fulfill
Okay, that's interesting, Alex. And everything you said makes the writing process more meaningful for the
and
students
enjoyable.
and
Yes.
enjoyable. Yeah, meaningful and enjoyable because, as you had said before, it's related to their lives. and if something is related to my life, I'm going to think about it, but enjoying it because I have to write something that relates to me. I'm not going to invent something, or I'm not going to read a paragraph and say, all right, I have to write a short text about that paragraph. No, I'm considering all the things that the professor told me. So therefore, they belong to my life. They will be easier to write.
Exactly, and they're going to produce it in this kind of writing, this kind of written production with all the souvenirs and all the past history stories and histories that they want to develop to the writing. So they're going to put into practice all the structure that they are learning or they learned a long time ago. They put into action the tenses of
Yeah,
those kind of tenses, the vocabulary,
exactly.
the adjectives, the adverbs, the nouns. So they're putting together all of them into the rules and the syntax that they need to follow.
Okay, that that's an interesting activity, Alex. I had never thought about, writing a biography, having my students write a biography. I think that's something that's very clever for them to improve.
And it's a challenge because they say,
Yeah.
Professor, how many pages? I don't know how many pages does your life have. I don't know. I can't. It's an uncountable. For example, it's
Yeah.
like mathematics. They
Wow.
are endless. You
Yeah.
have endless pages to put on into your biography. So I
Exactly.
cannot reduce or put boundaries into your book.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
That's
You have
true. Wow,
complete freedom and creativity.
yeah, that's interesting because some people may have a lot of pages to write because they have had a lot of experiences in
Yeah,
life. Not
good
not
or
only,
bad.
yeah,
Yeah, good or bad.
yeah, good or bad, but their experiences, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Have you done that before, or are you just doing it now?
I have this two teaching techniques. I remember that I did it with you, the English portfolio and
Okay, yeah,
biographies.
yeah, I
The English
remember that.
portfolio.
Yeah.
And also using biographies, I'd say I have been using this for about 6 years ago.
Okay,
And in
wow,
first semester, yes.
that's
And
good.
people feel acquainted, people feel empathetic, and people feel
Yeah,
that they are telling me their lives. Is a professor, it's only you. Yes, it's only you and me. And I'm going to keep the secrets because it's really confidential what we have there.
that is
So
true.
it's you. I don't mind what you did wrong in the past or what you are doing today or what you're gonna do tomorrow. But the idea is that you feel confidence in your writing. That's it.
Wow. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's an idea I'm going to steal from you, Alex, because I hadn't thought about, writing a biography.
Go
I
ahead,
think
man. Go
that's a
ahead.
good thing.
No
That's a
problem.
good, really good thing. Never thought about that, but I think I will try and implement it next semester
Yeah,
with
and
the
you are using
students.
tenses, you are using descriptive paragraphs,
Yeah,
you are using a kind of narration, fiction, reality. So there are a bunch of things that you are just putting into this kind of project because
yeah.
this is the final project that I have for them.
Wow, that's good. If there's a possibility, I would like to read some of your students' biographies.
No problem.
That would be
That's
interesting.
what I want to do is that they need to share with other semesters what they are
Yeah,
doing. Cartoons. They are producing short descriptions about celebrities. So they want to share. And from first semester, they have to be in front of others presenting what they are producing. If people
that
say,
is
no,
true.
professor, I'm scared to death of being in front of people.
Yeah,
You are going to be a professor. You are going to start making them feeling, standing in front of others. So
yeah.
just to reduce public speaking fears.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. And that's an interesting presentation that you have. Reduce public
Yes.
speaking fears, right? That's
Overcoming that.
interesting. Yeah,
Yes.
overcoming
Overcoming
them.
that.
Exactly. All right, good. All right, Alex, thanks for sharing that information. Very valuable information. So, also in part three of generating ideas before writing, keep in mind we can also use poetry prompts and we can use story starters. For poetry prompts, provide a simple prompt or provide simple prompts for writing different types of poems, such as haikus or limericks, and those are just types of poem writing. In case you don't know what that is, but it's just simply try to use um, with vocabulary, try to match words with other words in terms of sound. Um, a lot of people do this. I don't know if you ever have ever written poetry, Alex. You ever have words rhyme with other words? You ever
Yeah,
tried that?
I tried a long time ago when I have the American literature course. I
Okay.
just have that kind of strategy.
Okay, yeah, that's an important strategy because it helps you look for words that rhyme with other words. Sometimes it's difficult, but it's challenging. It is difficult, but it's challenging, and it's also good to improve writing. The other one is story starters, which is simply provide the beginning of a story and continue developing the story. We usually start with once upon a time and then continue it. Or work with a friend, work with a classmate, tell your classmate to give you a starter, a prompt for starting a story. And then, for example, if I was the classmate, I would say, okay, once upon a time, I found a cell phone on the floor, and have the other person continue.
Yeah.
In your writing course, do you do this story starter type of activity?
Yeah, when I'm just starting to teach simple past tenses, I have to like to have the story starter because we have once upon a time, and we are just introducing all the verbs in past tense. So they need to find out different words and start just working and practicing with others about the way that they be creative to think about situation where you use the simple past tense. So they provide beginning, a middle, and an end. So,
Okay,
and they
good.
have a plot, but they
Yeah.
have to go on their own, because you have to be creative. I cannot pretend. We cannot pretend as teachers to say that we give them everything. That's
Yeah,
a common
that's true.
mistake. We
That's
have to
true.
give them to a sparkle, start, and you go on your own.
Yep,
And when they on the way, we just guide them.
that is true. Yeah, we guide them. Yeah, with those story starters, that is good. Something you said mentioned is very important, and the students, my students, sometimes never do this. I provide the story starter, and I say, once upon a time, I have a beginning, and what they do the entire time is develop the story. But I tell them, yeah, we have a starter. You need to develop the story, and you need to close the story. You need to put an ending on it, and that is something that students find difficult to do because all they want to do is continue with the same story and continue and continue. So the idea is, yeah, just to try and
And it,
tell
and
them,
it, and it turns to be boring for them. That's why
yeah,
they don't. Sometimes
exactly,
they don't participate. They tend to be boring. So the idea is to explore their creativity by providing several situations, things
yeah,
that call their attention. Say, okay, what about this kind of plot?
yeah,
And once
there
they
you
have
go.
the plot, they will start, okay, and sparkling their minds and say they are going to produce in a very different way.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. And that will take the monotony away, right?
Yeah, man.
That's
Yes.
true. All right, we have a short video here, okay? Just watch the video and it's about, creating. It's about creating. It's a very short video, so we'll watch the video. Let me turn off my camera just in case we have uh difficulties here. All right, so here is the video. Let's watch it. Okay, what did you think about that video, Alex? They have vocabulary, and then the person brings out, all these objects and associates them with the vocabulary. I think that's an interesting thing to do, especially for high school students, to help them, generate ideas for writing. Okay, I think Alex's mic is off, but yeah, the idea there is to make sure you have objects and that you can associate with keys, not keys, but with keywords that you saw as we saw on the video. All right, from there we're going to part 4. Okay, and part 4 is mistakes to avoid. And what should we avoid? Well, we need to avoid spelling mistakes, even though making spelling mistakes is okay. We need to avoid punctuation mistakes because sometimes when we write in Spanish, what do? We just put commas and continue with commas and commas and commas. And what we get is like a pot of soup with too many things in it. But the idea is use punctuation. Um, I don't focus that much on spelling because even I make some spelling mistakes when I write a text, and yeah, I make some spelling. Even when I write on my cell phone, I also make some some small blunders, but I try and correct them. But punctuation mistakes are very, very important to be aware of. As I said before, in Spanish, we are used to writing comma, continue, or in worst case scenarios, we put a semicolon. As we know that as punto y coma in Spanish. We got to be careful with that. Yes. When you have an idea, you write your idea. If your idea is finished, put a period. If you want to add to the idea, you use a connector. You could say, for example, or moreover. Or if you want to contrast it, you use a different connector of contrast, etc., etc. But don't do as we do in Spanish when you write in English. Don't fill it with a bunch of commas, maybe a semicolon and all that. And sometimes in Spanish, we write a complete paragraph, and that complete paragraph is one sentence divided by many commas. Try not to do that. English is, as we had said before, it's a language that is very structured. That being said, when it's very structured, you have to be very on point. The difference about writing in English and writing in Spanish is that we usually tend to write many things in Spanish, as we say, to adorn, adornar, what we are writing. Try not to make that, well, I don't want to call it a mistake, but try not to do that because the style of writing in English is not that. The ideas in English is if you have an idea, write an introductory sentence, develop it, make sure you use periods, and finally you have that closing part. So English is very precise when we write, different from Spanish. Please keep that in mind. Mistakes to avoid. Now, the last one is the translation mistakes. When we write, sometimes we think about Spanish and we write in English. There's a term that we call transfer in English. Okay, there is something we call positive transfer and something we have negative transfer. So usually when we translate our ideas directly from Spanish to English, we can come to one of those two, a positive transfer or a negative transfer. A positive transfer is when you translate, you write it, write the idea, thought about in Spanish, but written in English, you have some mistakes. However, if if the meaning is not disturbed in any way, shape, or form, that is called a positive transfer. But when you make the translation from Spanish to English and you lose the meaning of what you write, it is because not all words can be translated directly from Spanish to English. And that's when we get negative transfer. And just so you know, positive transfer is when the idea in meaning is not affected. Negative transfer, however, is when the idea is affected and we lose the idea or probably lose coherence in the writing. You've got to be careful with that. In translation, if you can avoid translating what you are thinking to write, that is even better. So the best thing to do is keep in mind all the strategies we just saw and, apply them. That way, you don't have to translate your ideas from Spanish to English. So, part four is mistakes to avoid. And finally, as we had mentioned before, we will have grammar mistakes, but make sure that as you write, you monitor your writing. In other words, write, but make sure you're aware of what you're writing. Go back and read what you wrote. Look for that grammar mistake. Maybe you forgot the S in the third person if you are writing in simple present. Make sure you go back, make that correction, because if you don't, you will fall into what we had talked before, and that is fossilization. You don't want to fossilize your mistakes because it'll be very, very difficult to correct them the next time around. So, in part four, mistakes to avoid spelling mistakes, try to avoid them as much as you can, avoid the punctuation mistakes, avoid the translation mistakes, and avoid the grammar mistakes as well. Okay, so we have about 5 or 6 more minutes, so we will do this really quick. Part four, also mistakes to avoid. How can you, okay, there's a small writing mistake. How can you avoid making mistakes? I just made a mistake there. Should have said avoid, but I said void. Proofread your writing. Whatever you write, make sure you read it again. Proofread it. That's the best thing you can do. Then have a friend, maybe a teacher or an English expert writer to proofread what you have written. If they have the time, let them read it. They can find those mistakes for you. So avoid making the mistakes by proofreading or having a different person read what you have written. Okay, number five is keep a writing journal. We had spoke about writing journals. So you have daily or weekly journals. I think dailies are better because you're going to write what you have experienced throughout the day. Weekly is good also, but sometimes we may not remember everything about the week. So daily would be a lot better. Okay. So encourage yourself to keep a daily or a weekly journal, preferably daily, in which you can write about your experiences, your feelings, and your thoughts as well. Please keep that in mind. If you're able to and you like it, you know, do it. Put your journal away, read it from time to time, but put it away. I don't know. Let 10 years pass. Let 15 years pass. Look for that journal again, read it, and you say, wow, that is what I was experiencing 10 or 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. And that those were my experiences, as it says here. Those were my feelings and those were my thoughts. It's incredible what you can learn about yourself through writing about, a daily or a weekly journal because you look back and you say, I used to think this way. Now I think a very different way. So keep that in mind. Those are good. Or imagine you are traveling to a different country or city and write about your experiences. Now, these are experiences which are imaginary because it's not going to be like a daily or weekly journal. It's just going to be experiences that are going through your mind that really have not happened. However, you're imagining those and you can write those. Now, what's a good thing about this is that maybe one day you will travel and remember, oh, I wrote a journal about an imaginary traveling experience. I'm going to take it with me. And when I arrive to my destination and experience what I'm going to experience, I'm going to take that journal. And while I am living that experience in another country or in another city, I'm going to read it and say, wow, how close was my imagination to the experience I'm living now of traveling? So those two are good. Daily or weekly journal or an imaginary traveling experience or maybe a different experience. Imagine that you are a singer, that you are an artist, and that you are facing, I don't know, 15,000 people in a concert. How would you feel about that? Write those things down. Maybe if you go to a concert, when you come back from the concert, take that imaginary journal and compare it to what you have lived. Okay, so those are things we should consider. Keep a writing journal. Okay, and finally, part 6, it's the summary of the key points we have covered. So, what can remember? What can we remember about what we just saw in this past presentation and master class? Well, let's talk about that. Yes, in part 6, summary of key points, remember, we spoke about the importance of writing. Writing can be important in almost every scenario of your life. Keep that in mind, even your academic life. Read to improve your writing skills. The more you read and analyze sentences or structures or vocabulary, the better writer you are going to be. Number 3, generating ideas. We had a lot of ideas for generating ideas. Keep those in mind. There are so many things we could put into practice to generate ideas. Remember the video we saw previously. Number 4, mistakes to avoid. Avoid, those common mistakes of punctuation. Avoid those common mistakes of grammar. Yes, we can monitor our writing as we monitor our speech. Therefore, we are able to somehow pick up on the mistakes that we make. And also, don't be hesitant in correcting your mistakes. The idea is not to fossilize your mistake because it becomes an error. And errors are a bit more difficult to correct. Keep that in mind. Number 5, keep a writing journal, whether it's a daily journal or a weekly journal, because they help us. They help us conquer, these aspects of writing, which, sometimes we call the writer's block. Your mind is blocked as a writer, but with a writing journal, you continue moving your hand. Now, try not to make your journal on a computer because this is different. Typing on a keyboard is different from writing. Very, very different. And we just did the summary of the key points, and please keep all of these techniques and strategies in mind. I'm going to leave you with this video. Okay, this is video number 2. Watch the video really quickly, doesn't take long.
Diffusing how soon?
All right, so I want to thank you guys for those of you who will be watching this at a later time on YouTube. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can reach us. You can reach me at JJ Calderon at uniquindio.edu.co. I want to thank Professor John Alexander Sena for being with us today. Thank you very much, John Alexander. Your input was very important to this masterclass. You touched upon many important key things that we can consider in improving writing. So thank you, John Alexander, for accompanying us in masterclass number 8. So
you're really welcome, John. Thank you very
okay,
much for letting me the opportunity to accompany you in this incredible masterclass. And the most important is the students will have the chance to watch this incredible video, and the content that is the most important, you can apply to your real life.
Okay, that is true. Yeah, the idea is to make writing enjoyable and meaningful. So thank you to everybody, and you guys have a good evening, or whenever you watch this, a good rest of the day. Thank you, Alex.
Okay,
Take
you're
good
welcome,
care.
John. See you, you too.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Goodbye.